there's so much of I should have done X by now, or I haven't accomplished what I wanted to, or
Yeah.
whether it's haven't gotten married or had kids or whatever those things are that you feel like I have to have done this by this point, or I'm not at the level that I expected that I wanted to be, or I haven't achieved this goal. And so we hit this age and it's like, oh, well, I haven't done the things.
Yeah,
So
and door closed, door closed, door closed. That's what we envision.
So we decided to talk about what we're going to discuss today because of an article that came out in The Atlantic that was titled "The Puzzling Gap Between How Old You Are and How Old You Think You Are." We had both read it independently, and you brought it up while we were recording another episode. And I said, oh, I found it fascinating as well. So we decided to discuss subjective age.
Yes, and I was so glad that you wanted to dive into this with me because I'll be honest, I hadn't even heard the expression subjective age before as a term. And so I was familiar with, some of the concepts, but I hadn't really thought about it cohesively. So I thought this would be a fun chance to really dive in and explore together.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic because we frequently hear about people feeling older than they are. It's kind of a joke that, you get up in the morning and you got aches and pains and you're like, oh, I feel like I got hit by a bus. I feel much older than I am. But the interesting part of the article was that most people over 40 actually feel 20% younger than their biological age.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a much different discussion than feeling older than you really are.
Yeah, or if it's like both, because if people subjectively think they're younger, but then they have an ache and pain that they associate with an older age, which is actually their biological age. So maybe they're just
Sure.
feeling themselves because I'm 44. So according to the study, if I were sort of had the norm, I would think in my brain that I'm 35. So then if I, looked in the mirror and saw like the skin of a 44-year-old or had the energy of a 44-year-old or that sort of recovery time after I hurt myself, it takes longer, right? I might think, oh my gosh, I feel so much older than I am, but actually that's just my actual age.
And what do you think about that? Is 35 the age that you subjectively feel? Are you anchored there?
I thought a lot about it over the last couple of weeks since I read this and when I knew we'd be chatting. I sort of oscillate between 36 and 44. Between is kind of a blur. I would say 36 does resonate for me as an age because that was when I had my second kid, which was a pivotal moment, right? It's like a moment that's enshrined in my brain and my psyche. And 36, I felt very settled in sort of my adulthood. I had a good sense of who I was. I loved my 20s. The beginning, my early 30s felt a little bit, I was more unsure with coming of age, becoming a mother, that new chapter. But by 36, I felt grounded in that. So to me, 36 makes sense. And then other times I do feel, yeah, I'm in my 40s now because there are certain experiences and wisdom and just life that's changed who I was since 35. So I would say part of me definitely, I can relate to that. Like in one moment, I might say to you, oh yeah, I'm 35, 36. And then in another conversation, I might tell you, no, I'm 44. What about you?
I think that my story is a little bit different in that my 20s, I didn't love. I wasn't really who I am. I was drinking a lot and I didn't have a lot of self-confidence and I really behaved in ways that looking back I'm not super excited about. So I don't have any longing for 20 or anchor to my 20s. And then my 30s were really a lot of personal growth and career change and relationship growth and all of those things. So I don't have a prior age where I really felt settled and happy. There's like an anchor there to an age when you were really starting to feel settled and happy and confident in who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that I really had that until I was in my early 40s. So maybe physically, I still feel like I'm in my 30s. Like I feel younger than I am physically, but mentally, I don't necessarily associate with another age. I kind of think about like, yeah, I'm 43 and that's where I am. And I'm like in a good place at 43.
Uh-huh.
But I get that feeling of it being kind of a range. Like it's almost like from 35 to 45, like that's just sort of a big chunk.
Yeah.
like like
Yeah.
I can't tell you like what was 38. I don't even know.
Yeah. And the other thing I've noticed is that time seems to go really quickly.
It does, yes.
Yeah. So, in contrast to my kids, for example, if something is 2 weeks away, they'll think that's a monumental amount of time, right? I'm like, it's
Yeah.
nothing, or 6 months, or whatever. Every day, every week for them is a long time, a long duration. And I remember feeling that way compared to now. I'm like, oh, such a, something to look forward to that's happening in 8 months, in it, because I know it's going to be here within the blink of an eye. So I think in that sense,
Yeah.
the years can pass quickly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
disproportionately, that it makes sense to me. So it's like disproportionately, it feels like they're happening faster than they are.
And age is such an abstract thing. Like we have this chronological age and everyone has birthday every year. But 1 year for you is completely different than a year for me. And a year for my mom, who's in her 70s, is completely different than a year for my nephews. And so I polled a couple of people to see what their subjective age was to get an idea of different perspectives. And first, I asked my partner, CK, who's the same age as I am. We're 3 months apart, so he's also 43. And his answer kind of surprised me. I asked, what's your subjective age? And he thought about it for a minute and he goes, 18.
Mm.
And I'm like, how are you stuck at 18? Like, why do you think you're 18? But he had two severe concussions within a couple of days of each other. And that ended up causing some brain trauma, which resulted in him going through about a 20-year battle with anxiety and depression and insomnia.
I didn't realize that was caused by.
Yeah, soccer injuries. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So he thinks that he kind of got anchored to that point in his life where he changed and he didn't really feel like himself after he had those concussions. And he didn't have an answer for why until about 5 or 6 years ago. But that big chunk of his life, he was living and he was happy and he was fine, but he had become disconnected from who he really felt like he was. Now he's starting to get back to who he was, but he kind of feels like he's still at 18 as he's kind of getting back and dealing with all of the stuff that he went through with the brain injuries. And then I polled my mom, who is in her mid 70s, and she immediately said mid 50s. And I said, why do you feel that way? What was going on at that time? And she said that physically, she does not feel like she's in her 70s. She's in really good shape. And mentally, she's, really sharp and she still works 3 jobs and she's very active. And she says that she doesn't really feel like anything significant has changed for her in the last 20 years. So she doesn't feel like she's aged. She's like, I got to that point and I'm still there.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. Yeah, I think that there can be, and the article suggested this as well, that we might associate with a certain age because of something significant that happened in our lives at that time, whether it be traumatic. For some, it was something traumatic, or it might have been something that felt really positively meaningful, that brings like a strong association with that age. It's interesting because I polled some folks as well, and there was a lot of sort of what came up was I feel I know my age. Like I own my age. Like I own the number. And at the same time, a huge commitment to like living life to the fullest and having a lot of
Mhm.
experiences. So in that sense, like an association with feeling younger. But it does bring up a really interesting sort of set of questions, I think, for people to think
Yeah.
about. It can be sort of like a triggering question because I think the concept of aging brings with it so many things.
There's a lot of judgment and baggage around age, kind of regardless of what age you are. It's almost like you're not allowed to be that
I
age.
know, it's crazy. I remember always thinking that I looked really young and that I sounded
Mhm.
really young. And I wanted to look older because I thought people,
Really?
yeah, I mean, when I was in like my 20s,
Uh,
30s, because I thought people would take me more seriously. And then as soon as I became in my 40s, I'm like, oh no, I want to look younger. But it's, I mean, yeah, there's
yeah.
something around like this concept of hiding our ages. And this was a conversation that I had with another friend of mine who's soon going to be turning 50. And they shared that they had some angst around that, this turning 50. And we joked about, oh, will you hide this? Will you be honest about your age? Or for the first time, will you start lying about your age? And this is also a very sort of self aware, confident person. And yet there's this thing around aging with like a desire to keep it concealed. But like it is who you are, right? It's like it's just the fact of who you are. So to me, that really just highlights, yeah, all of the kind of ageism that there is and all of the thoughts and stories and narratives that we carry around aging. Yeah.
You mentioned your friend who's turning 50 and is having some angst about it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering about the reactions that people have at various stages in their lives. There's so much of, I should have done X by now, or I haven't accomplished what I wanted to, or,
Yeah.
whether it's haven't gotten married or had kids or whatever those things are that you feel like I have to have done this by this point, or I'm not at the level that I expected that I wanted to be, or I haven't achieved this goal. And so we hit this age and it's like, oh, well, I haven't done the things. So
Yeah, and door closed, door closed, door closed. That's what we envision for many of us. That all the doors were open, all the options were there, and then as you become chronologically older, you think, well, there's just fewer doors available for me. And I think some of that is true,
sure.
and I think some of it is not true. I think some of it is like a belief
Mhm.
system that can be challenged because it's like, no, I still feel
Yeah.
like there's options in front of me. And I still feel like I'm creating a life of meaning and I'm open to surprises and I'm trying new things or, yeah, living a life that feels meaningful, exciting.
Yeah. Rather than looking backwards at what has happened, you can look forward at what can still happen. And, if you're 40, 45, you have a lot of life left to live.
Totally.
And, you hear about like musicians and actors and, artists and all of these people that their most popular works are frequently created in the second half of their lives. They could have had success before, but all of that experience and knowledge and just life, everything that you have gone through sets you up for doing really great things. And we think about like, oh, you got to accomplish all this stuff in your 30s or whatever, but I think if you can have kind of that growth mindset and constantly be learning and challenging yourself, and
Yeah.
whether that's just reading a book or listening to a podcast, whatever it is that is keeping you engaged and thinking rather than just kind of being like, oh, well, this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. And so say more because you had mentioned this earlier, like the relationship with growth mindset and subjective age. What were you noticing around that?
Well, I think that a lot of people that I have talked to where they say that they feel old, or maybe even if you think about people once they retire, there's a lot of data that shows that they start aging more quickly.
Yeah.
or feeling older once they've retired. And that's something that people look forward to their whole lives. They're like, I'm going to retire and I'm going to have this amazing life. And then they retire and it's like a sort of a downturn. And I think all of that really comes down to purpose could be one thing, but you don't necessarily have to have some grand purpose to be learning and engaging with new content, new ideas, just really expanding your horizons.
And new experiences.
New experiences. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's key. One big group of people who I polled are part of a leadership development group that I've done. So the individuals in the group tend to be, really thirsty for new experiences, feeling creative about their lives. So all different ages, and I think that they're individuals that have decided that they want to have purpose in their lives and create a life of meaning and purpose and sort of go after that. So I think that was telling for me when they said, no, I feel good about my age. I mean, I can't, my recovery time is slower. Like I went skateboarding and hurt my ankle and it took me longer to feel better and more aches and pains. And I've had to change the exercises I do, right? I can't do this, but I can do that instead. But there were more analogies like, oh, I'm aging like a fine wine and, older and wiser and have more to bring to the table for myself and for others. So I find that inspiring. I mean, I find aging, I have mixed feelings about it. And at the same time, when I can step into that energy, it feels a lot better.
It definitely does. Yeah. I have obviously everyone does have a complex relationship with aging. I think that I definitely have a lot of vanity around it. I color my hair. I've been growing gray since I was 25. It's a family trait. So I'm fighting that. And I definitely do a lot to appear younger, keeping my appearance looking younger, but also staying fit, eating in a way that is anti-aging. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're talking here about, like, first of all, aging is not a negative. And there's no right answer for what subjective age you should feel. If you feel 20 years younger, great. If you feel your age, great. Like there's no right or wrong here. It's really about feeling good.
Yes, I think that's what that was going to be. I agree. And I think the right age is one that makes you feel excited about being you, that makes you feel empowered and alive. So if it's a younger age, I think if your subjective age is significantly younger than real age on your birth certificate, I think there's also value in working to accept this age because your body is changing and has different needs, right? So we can tap into that, that spirit of feeling more youthful, feeling more energized, feeling excited about life, or all of those things from previous ages, if that works for us and we want to identify with that. And at the same time, I think it's like a polarity of also saying, well, yeah, and at the same time, this is where my body's at. So saying to me, somehow this, age is just a number. You're only as old as you feel. It's kind of like a cop out. Like, yes, our mindset is hugely important, and let's not let the narratives that society says about when you're this age, you have to do this, and when you're this age, you have to do that, and you have to stop doing this. Like, let's, challenge those. And at the same time, saying that it's, it's all in your mind and you're only as old as you feel. There's something about a cop out of it too, where it's like, well, our bodies are evolving, right? And how we work to sort of honor that, celebrate that, care for that, and at the same time not fall victim of socialization that tells us we have to do X, Y, and Z by certain ages. That was my sort of most meaningful thought around this.
The interesting thing in these articles that we read about subjective aging was that in brain scans that they have done, that they have shown that people who feel younger than they are actually have differences in their brain makeup. I think it was in Dura matter or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were able to show actual differences. So these people who had a younger subjective age also had better memory, better cognition, more resilience. They had more optimism.
Yeah. And that one study said, oh, as soon as they identified with a younger age, they instantly felt more capable.
So we have to ask, is it feeling younger that changes your brain, or is it having a different brain makeup that changes how you feel? I don't know that we can separate those two, but we know that the way you think and behave and the way you treat your body, the way you think about your abilities does impact your physical health. You can think yourself into not feeling well. So, kind of regardless of whether the changes happen because of how you feel or whether the way you feel changes your brain, I think that focusing on having that zest for life that they talked about in the article and having optimism and looking ahead and thinking positively about what you can do and not focusing on anti-aging because aging is bad, but focusing on feeling alive and feeling present and feeling like you're actively participating in your life now rather than constantly living in like, oh, I wish it was still, you know, 2001 or whatever year you're in.
I love everything that you're saying. And this idea of active participation and feeling alive, right? Feeling that there's
Yeah.
stuff happening. Life is still happening, right? With you, for you, with your participation. And it reminds me of this one point, this concept of the reminiscence bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reminiscence bump is this tendency we have to remember disproportionately certain memories and instances from our youth, specifically ages 15 to 25. Because for most people, those are ages at which so many firsts happened, first experiences, pivotal moments, different types of, relationships, possibly leaving home, like all these big moments that are so ingrained in our brains. Our brain stores those memories disproportionately. We remember those youthful memories so much, and then we might have a tendency to really feel nostalgic about that. When I was reading that, I was thinking, yeah, it's great. And that's why I love creating lots of memorable new things in my life right now in my 40s. I like having aha moments. I like doing new things. I'm constantly wanting to travel to new places, read new things, have new kinds of conversations, try stuff out, grow in my career, because I know that those kind of new experiences feel really satisfying for me and really exciting.
Yeah, I think that definitely ties in with what we were talking about. Just always learning and staying in that growth mindset or focusing on broadening your horizons and not feeling stuck. Even if it's a little thing, even if you're like, hey, I'm going to read a new novel or learn about a new topic, whatever it is, it can be something so little. And you never know where that first new thing is going to take you. You could read a novel where they talk about making a recipe and then you go and you learn to make that recipe, and then before you know it you're having friends over for dinner to try something new. You can just kind of take little things in your day to day and make those new and novel experiences where you're learning new things.
Yeah, well, if I think about this show a little bit easier, that I never would have thought or dared have a YouTube channel in my 30s. It just wouldn't have crossed my mind as something that I would do, right? And then here I am working with you to bring this to life. And yes, this is something that people in their 20s or even in their teens are doing, but who cares? Good for us too, right? Yes, there are some rules for some things, but for other things, there really aren't. So, in terms of like learning new topics, trying new things, expanding your interests, full permission at different ages to do that.